Hey guys, what's up? Andrew Gamer GL here, and welcome back to yet another video. Now today, I'm gonna be doing a little bit of a different video, and I know that I am a little bit late bringing this in, but I am giving you my Bundesliga 24-25 predictions today. And right now, I think the Nations League games, we are now on an international break. And I'm sorry I haven't posted a video regularly sooner, but I had to get some things done at first. I still had to finish one of my exams, but now that that is done and taken care of, I can get back to making more content, and this is the video I wanted to do. So yeah, I'm excited to go through this, and I already have my predictions set up here. And I don't want to make this video too long as well. I'm going to make it brief, going through each team, where I think they'll finish and stuff like that. Going from lowest to the highest position. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing. So, in last place, which is 18th place in a relegation spot, I've put St. Pauli. Now, to be honest, I don't think St. Pauli have had a bad start. I think for a newly promoted club, I think they've had an okay-ish start. They didn't really get destroyed by any of the new teams that they have faced, but they have lost all of their games. They have still yet to score a goal. I think there's another team beside them who just got promoted who looked a little bit more promising than them. And I think that despite not having a terrible season, I think there's a quite clearly a lack of quality in that St. Pauli team compared to the other teams. Even though I think at times they've been playing good football, I'm not sure if that will be enough to stay up in this current Bundesliga season. In 17th, the next club that I think will also directly get relegated with them is a club that I think has been floating around with relegation for a while for these past few years, but I've always just about survived and squeaked through. As a matter of fact, they just survived relegation in a penalty shootout in the playoffs. But this season, I think unfortunately their luck is going to run out, and that's Bochum for me. As I said, Bochum for a while, for the past few seasons, have been flirting with relegation a little bit ever since they got promoted back up to the Bundesliga. I think the best they finished was mid-table in 12th, which I think was their first or second season where they came back in the Bundesliga. But ever since then, they've been floating with relegation for a while. And I think this is the season where they finally get relegated. They haven't really made any good, interesting signings that I think would help them stay up in this league. And even though we have a fan club friendship with them, I think unfortunately, like I said, this is the season where their luck runs out. In 16th place, which is in the relegation playoff spot, I got the other Bundesliga club that just got promoted, and that's Holstein Kiel. I think Holstein Kiel will just about do enough to survive relegation for me this season. I think they've shown some promising signs against the clubs they've already played against. They've already scored 2 or 3 goals, if I'm not mistaken, which for a newly promoted team, that's actually quite good for the first couple of games. And To do that when you're down to 10 men against Hoffenheim, I think is also quite promising. I think they will be leaking a lot of goals, which is why I still have them finishing quite low. But I think attacking wise, I think they're going to be fine this season. And I think their attack is going to be exactly why they'll just about survive in the relegation playoff spot and not go directly back down again. Next up, 15th is I put Augsburg, which is in the lower mid-table finish. I'll be honest, I really haven't been impressed with how Augsburg have been doing so far. You can very clearly see they have a huge disparity in quality in the attack now ever since they lost Demirovic to Stuttgart. Their attack hasn't been looking as potent. They've been playing okay football, but regarding Augsburg, their defense looks horrible. It looks so disorganized. They've already conceded quite a few goals in this first two opening games, and I don't think they're necessarily going to have a good season. That's why I think they're just gonna about avoid the relegation playoff spot and finish in 15th. In 14th, this is a team that I think some of you guys might think is a hot take, that I think they'll finish in 14th because they qualified for the Europa League last season, and that is Hoffenheim. As much as I think Hoffenheim's attack still looks very potent and still looks quite good, I cannot look back their shaky defense. I mean, when you concede 2 goals at home to a 10-man Holstein Kiel team, that's never really a good look, in my opinion. And I think they're going to have a very up and down shaky season this season. I actually think they'll do decent in the Europa League, but I think them having to balance Bundesliga and Europa League competition is going to let them have a pretty drastic fall off, especially with how, like how I said, how bad their defense has looked. In 13th, I've gone with Mainz. I think Mainz will have a relatively average season this season. Not horrible, not too great for their standards. That I think they'll have an okay-ish season. They have some interesting attacking talent that they've got. Their defense looks alright. It doesn't look as bad as it was last season. So I think they'll be fine and they'll finish 13th. Same thing I'll say about Union Berlin. From what I've seen these first couple of games, they've looked alright. They've looked slightly better than Mainz as well, playing away from home, which I think is a bit interesting. I think they'll grind out some results even against a slightly stronger opposition. And I think they'll have a relatively safe 12th place finish. No Europe, but no relegation either. In 11th place, I've gone for Werder Bremen. Yeah, I've gone for Werder Bremen in 11th. They've looked alright as well. I can say a lot this about the other the other mid-table clubs. I could say the same thing about a lot of them. I think Bremen will have a decent season. Their attack looked quite decent. Their defense looked alright. They're playing decent football. So yeah, I'm gonna put them at 11th. In 10th place, I'm putting Borussia Mönchengladbach. I think they will have a better season than they did last season, for sure. Their attack looks a lot more potent. Their defense, I think, still has some problems. We could clearly see that as well, the times they were cut open in the Leverkusen game. Um, but I think they'll do all right. They'll finish right about in the middle in 10th place, and I think they'll have an okayish season. Ninth place, I've gone with Wolfsburg. Now, some people might think this is a little bit of a hot take because I don't think Wolfsburg have played that well in their first two games. Even against Bayern, when they only lost by a goal, we basically, by defensive issues, gave them a lot of chances. But personally, I think their attack has been very clinical so far. With the amount of chance they're given, they take them very well. And their defense looks a lot more sharper. I've been impressed by their defense. They've got a very good goalkeeper in Grabara now, who they signed from Copenhagen. And yeah, ninth place finish. I think they'll improve as the season goes on. And ninth is where I think they'll finish. Eighth place, and potentially qualifying for Europe again, I've put Heidenheim. Heidenheim, I'll be honest, even though I predicted them 8th, Heidenheim is one of those teams that I would not be surprised if they finish higher than 8th this season. Because what they've shown from me in these first two games is very, very promising. Their defense still looks as great as it's been last season, despite losing key players like Jan-Niklas Beste and Kleindest. I think they've looked really good. They've still not conceded a goal after these first two games. 2-0 win against St. Pauli, 4-0 win against Augsburg. Their attack has looked probably even more dangerous than it did last season. So I think they'll have again another very good season and finish in 8th place. 7th place. This is a team I think will have a little bit of a fall off this season because they've lost pretty much their entire back line to Dortmund, and they've also lost quite a few key players as well. In 7th place, I've put Stuttgart. I think Stuttgart will have, as I said, a bit of a fall off this season. I mean, they've already had a bit of a fall off. A 3-1 loss to Freiburg and a 3-3 draw against Mainz. Their attack, I think, still looks good. They still look very much alive in the attack. My main problem for them is their defense. Defensively, they've looked very shaky. And I guess we can kind of expect that because, as I just mentioned, they have lost pretty much their entire back line to Borussia Dortmund. And I think it's going to be very difficult for them as well, balancing Champions League and domestic football at the same time this season. I still think they'll do alright, which is why I predict they'll finish 7th, get at the minimum Conference League football, and I think they'll be fine there. In 6th place, I've gone for Eintracht Frankfurt. To be honest, it's kind of a formality or inevitability these past few seasons that Frankfurt will either finish 5th or 6th in the Bundesliga. They're just one of those teams that are solid. They will get a lot of results against teams that are weaker than them on paper, and perhaps even get a few surprise results against these slightly higher teams, but not quite be consistent enough to get to that top 4 level. Which is why I think Frankfurt, at the very least, will get Europa League football again. They'll be able to balance Europa League and Bundesliga relatively well. They have a decent squad. I think their manager, Dinamo Topler, I think will have a better season with Frankfurt, even points-wise, I think. And yeah, I think Frankfurt will finish 6th. In 5th place now, I've gone for Freiburg. Freiburg, I think, have had a pretty underrated start so far to this new Bundesliga season. A 3-1 win against Stuttgart and a 2-0 loss to Bayern Munich at home. But to be honest, I think 2-0 probably is flattering Bayern a little bit, because Freiburg, I think, probably played quite well against them. Freiburg's defense looks incredible. Like, they legit might have the most stable defense that I've seen from them in the league so far, despite conceding 3 goals, because as I said, they've had to face 2 very difficult opposition at the start of the season, and those goals more came from individual brilliance of the other teams rather than their defense being shaky or bad. So, and their attack has also looked quite decent. I think Freiburg will have a very good season this season, and I think they'll finish in 5th place. In 4th place, minimum Champions League qualifying spot, I've put Borussia Dortmund. Now, I'll be honest, I haven't been too impressed with how Dortmund has played these first 2 games so far. They got a 2-0 win, I believe, against... let me check. A 2-0 win against Frankfurt and a 0-0 draw against Werder Bremen. And defensively, I think they've looked very good. Defensively, I think they'll be alright for this season. But there's not a lot of chemistry in the attack. And they're also not scoring a lot of goals against opposition that are, I'd say, close to their level. So I think they'll have another, to their standards, a pretty average-ish season, and I think they'll finish in 4th place. In 3rd, I've gone for RB Leipzig. RB Leipzig have been quietly impressing me so far this season. Their defense, I think, still needs work. The amount of times they've been cut open against Leverkusen is quite concerning. But I also want to say, their attack has been very clinical so far, especially in that Leverkusen game. Leipzig so far, they're a team that you give them 1 or 2 chances, big chances, and they're very likely to score one of them. They're one of those teams that are very good on the counter, and I think attacking wise they still look good. They have a lot of talent. They've kept Xavi Simons on loan. Even though they've lost Dani Olmo, I still think they'll have a very good season, and I think they'll finish in 3rd place. But to be honest, I won't be surprised if they even finish 2nd and mount somewhat of a title challenge to the next 2 teams that I'm going to mention on this list. So, in second place, I'm putting Bayer Leverkusen. I don't think Leverkusen is going to be able to retain their Bundesliga title this season for a number of reasons. One, they're playing Champions League football instead of Europa League football. Like last season, Leverkusen were playing in the Europa League, so they could kind of balance rotating players in the league and in the Europa League as well. But I think this season they're gonna have it a lot more difficult. I think they got a pretty difficult draw as well in the UCL league phase, which, by the way, I will be giving my reaction to Bayern's league phase opponents, and also in general what I think will happen in the Champions League phase. That's gonna be a whole separate video. But yeah, Leverkusen, their attack still looks great. I have no doubt about that. Their attack still looks great, and I think that's why they're still going to be title contenders this season, even though they've already lost a game at home against RB Leipzig. But as I said, the main reason why I think they're not going to be able to retain their title is because they're going to now have to juggle UCL and domestic football at the same time. And on top of that, I think their defense has looked quite a lot worse this season compared to last season's start so far. I'm not ruling them out yet, as I said, of a title challenge. They can still very much do that, but I think they're gonna have it a bit more difficult this season. And as you guys know, that means in first place for my Bundesliga 24-25 predictions, I've put Bayern Munich. Now, personally, I also don't think we've reached our best footballing peak yet, but I have seen a lot of promising signs with what we've done so far. I've liked what Company has done with our tactics so far, despite what some people may think about his background as a manager. I think our defense is still a problem. I still don't trust Upamecano and Kim Min-jae consistently in games. But I think our attack and other teams having to deal with their own domestic tough footballing schedule, I think this is exactly why I think we're gonna be able to regain our Bundesliga title this season and finally win Harry Kane his first major trophy. And yeah, I think this time we're gonna get our league title back. Our players have to show a reaction after what happened last season with our trophyless campaign last season, where we've had a very bad season for our standards. We've made some very good signings. Hirataki Ito, who unfortunately got injured in preseason. We've signed João Palhinha for our defensive midfield that we've been desperately trying to get last season. We finally got him this season. And we got Michael Olise, who's a great attacking prospect. I think he'll add a lot more to our attack this season. He's looked very good, and I don't think he's even reached his peak yet so far this season. I expect Olise to get a 15 goals or assists season. And yeah, I think this will be our time. We'll regain our Bundesliga crown and we'll win the Bundesliga title. Come on, FCB. So yeah, those are my Bundesliga 24-25 predictions. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, be sure to hit that like button down below. And if you're new to my channel, hit that subscribe button if you want to see me upload more videos. And I'll be posting regularly on this channel. I think my next video will be my Bayern Freiburg match reaction and my Bayern Champions League draw phase reaction. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next one. Take care. Peace out, guys.